And we've returned. Rye. Rye! Who's doing this to you,
Ah,
Rye? Rye!
ah,
Come
oh,
in, Rye.
well, this is my
Who's doing
afternoon
this to
nap. I
you?
fell asleep at the computer. How are you, Bern?
Well, I'm good. How are you, my good friend?
It's been good. Just working, studying for stuff, moving up in the career ladder, as they say, and then just
Just buying those GameStop stocks.
oh my God, that was
AMC.
crazy. No, and they're taking a dive now too, so it's like it was a good thing, but now it's like back to normal. But no, I say screw those hedge fund people. That's what you get.
Fight the power.
Now, I'm not saying I want you to be homeless, but if that does happen, that's what you get.
That's what you get.
I love that in Tag, where he's just like, I don't want to say I hope you get what the hell is it?
Miscarriage, was
Yeah,
it?
miscarriage. Like, no, buddy, don't say that.
Don't finish
I
that.
love how they're all encouraging him not to say it, but Chili is still just like, if you do get a miscarriage, that's what you get.
He just feels so betrayed by that point. It's like,
Well,
this
it
went
was kind
back.
of it was a pretty fucked up moment in that movie. Like it's still hilarious, but thinking about it, like if you really break it down, to fake a miscarriage in front of like your best friends for a game of tag, that's beyond fucked up. Like
That's
I kind of agree with Chili. I'm like, if that's what happened, like if that does happen to you, that's karma for you. Like don't pretend that doesn't happen. Like that's basically what he's saying. Anyways, that movie's great. Oh man, it's been a crazy week, with stuff going on. We had the GameStop stocks, another HBO Max trailer, which was awesome. Basically the same thing as like the last one where it was just maybe a minute, 30 seconds, like a minute or so, and then it
yeah.
had more, but it had more snippets. Like we got to see a little bit, well, we got to see stuff from the Godzilla King Kong trailer, like more of that. We saw a little more from The Conjuring, I believe, from what I remember. And then more Mortal Kombat. That got me a little more excited too, just because that's only coming out in a couple months. And you got to see, Sub-Zero's back, like what more of his suit will look like. You
Hmm.
got to see Hiroyuki Sanada in action against the Lin Kuei. That's the Sub-Zero's clan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sub-Zero Grandmaster Lin
Yeah.
Kuei. Yeah, we got to
Yeah.
see that in
Because
action.
Scorpion's clan is the Shirai Ryu.
Yeah, Shirai Ryu, the Ryus of the Shirai. I don't freaking know all these funky names and stuff. But so that was pretty cool. And then what else? I'm trying to think. There was a couple other developments I was really like
Think
got
there's
me.
more for like Space Jam also.
There was a little more for Space Jam. Yeah, we got to hear a little more from that. But I'm trying to think. There's other stuff coming out. I did see a couple trailers to some horror movies I really want to watch. I don't know when they're coming out. I know one of them, like Collider, and a couple of them reviewed said it was okay. It's called Eight for Silver with like Boyd Holbrook and one of the dudes from Rogue One. He was one of like the rebel commanders. I forgot his name, but there it's basically a retelling of the Wolfman, essentially. Where it's like,
Ah, okay.
yeah, like where Boyd Holbrook is brought in to hunt this werewolf, like killing off the children and stuff. I don't know. I kind
Oh,
of
okay. Yeah, it's HBO. I was gonna say, is it like a Universal Monsters thing? But I think they gave that up, right?
no, yeah. There's been no developments from the Universal Monsterverse because they shot themselves in the foot several times with that. So I don't know if it will happen again. Maybe it'd be cool if they leaned more into like the actual classic monsters verse, where it's actually just like scary, artistic, and or just
Yeah.
scary. But
Make them actual horror movies, not these like big budget blockbuster action movies. Like, come on.
exactly. Let's see. Mass Effect, the remaster for like all three games is coming out for
Hmm?
previous gen, like PS4 and Xbox. So that's kind of cool. But I guess that's pretty much it. I mean, any other
Right.
developments?
There might be another thing. You
I
know,
want to say there's another thing, but I cannot place my finger on it. We
I
again, we had
think
the
it's
HBO Max trailer.
WandaVision episode 4.
Oh, well, that's a given. That's what we're talking about today. I don't care about that because that's a given. Yes, that is what we're here to talk about, Bern. Thank you for putting me back on track. WandaVision episode 4, which is, I know for some people I've talked to, this was an episode they really enjoyed because they didn't really dig the sitcom feel, which is fine. I really liked it for all the
I love
reasons
the sitcom stuff.
I did too. Not that I want like Marvel to make sitcoms, but for this show, because we know what Scarlet Witch has gone through, we know the gist of why it's like that.
Hmm.
But this episode, I think Yeah, it's my favorite as well because, it's back to the MCU format where it's more, movie quality status and, in color and not just taking place in Westview. So it was pretty cool to see that. We got to see is it Monica or Maria Rambo? Remind me which one's which.
Monica.
Monica. Okay, Monica's the daughter of Maria Rambo from Captain Marvel. So Captain Marvel, we definitely know is playing more of an influence in this one. Maybe not the hero herself, but that film essentially. The world is expanding with Marvel as we know it,
Yeah.
and yeah, I really dug it, especially because they brought back the Marvel like intro with the letters and all the clips of the movies and stuff kind of flowing in. So I thought that was kind of nice to see again. What did you feel about it? How did you feel about it, Bern?
I really enjoyed this episode a lot. I mean, it's the one where, again, I guess for the people who weren't on board, with the sitcom stuff, this is the one that's like, no, this is something like Marvel. This isn't like going to be just a, play on like 50s, 60s, 70s sitcoms. This is a story within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and this one really hammered down that fact. And just, the reveals of, what is going on. We get a better idea of what's happening, within Westview and just answering a lot of questions that we have, not all of them, but answering most of the questions that we have. So this was a very big episode in terms of giving us an idea, okay, what the rest of the show is going to be about, because this is all have been set up, episodes 1 through 3, just kind of teasing us about what's happening. And this one's like, okay, these are the answers, and we're gonna go from here now. And I'm like, oh man, I was already here for it, but I'm here for it even more now.
Yeah, I felt like I think if any indicator, the last episode was more of definitely a turn away from the sitcoms just because of how it ended.
Hmm.
So this one, yeah, is basically just saying we're done with the sitcom stuff. Now we're present, we're all caught up essentially. I mean, there's still questions that need to be answered for this season because we're about halfway with episode 5 coming out later today. So we'll have to wait on that one, but which I can't wait to talk about. We're gonna talk about that later. But out of 5 rantings, I'm definitely giving this one a strong 5 out of 5.
I will give this one a 5 as well.
Yeah, just because again, we're gonna talk about in the spoiler section of this just about what is developing and why the universe is expanding more so than it has with even like Endgame, Captain Marvel, and so all that good stuff. But are you ready for the spoiler session, Bert?
Yeah, and I mean, and like the last thing I'll say before we get into the spoilers and stuff is, if you weren't on board with the show at up to this point, I think give this episode a shot, because again, it goes to show that the show's not just going to be a whole sitcom type thing. This is a Marvel movie essentially in a episodic format on TV. So this is very much okay, this is Marvel, not experimental Marvel, which I love. I love experimental Marvel. So, if you weren't on board now, watch this episode. It's probably going to bring you back in.
Yeah, but yeah, now before we start, since you brought that up, I know we had the Netflix Marvel stuff, which I do miss. Like Punisher and Daredevil were my shit.
Oh,
But and that's not that I want Marvel to make sitcoms, but now that we're kind of out of that format, this is the first Marvel show for Disney Plus, like in the live action. It's not only been great as a sitcom, but now we're seeing it the quality that we'll be expecting for Loki, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and whatever, and the Hawkeye show that's coming out. I think not later this year, but next year, unfortunately. So we have to wait for that one. But again, Mandalorian, WandaVision. This is the quality we're gonna expect from Disney Plus. And like Burns said, if you haven't even caught up with the show or you don't even have Disney Plus, please get it. I can't stress that enough because if we're gonna keep seeing basically anything that's gonna beat out HBO and whatchamacallit, HBO, Amazon, all that stuff in its own realm, in my opinion, just strictly on production value.
yeah, yeah. If anything, Disney Plus is nailing it right now with the production value. And again, it's most evident in this episode because of just not being restricted to the sitcom format of the 50s and 60s and 70s. Like this is a legit, like I'm seeing like videos of it right now. It looks like a movie, like if you're actually watching just a regular Marvel movie. And that's, again, it just a tribute to the budget and the care that they're putting into the show, and possibly the rest of the shows that they release on Disney Plus.
Absolutely, Burn. Absolutely. I mean, what we're gonna see? People are gonna say game of who?
Game of Food. They already saying Game of Food.
No, they really are. But yeah, all right, let's dive into the spoiler session. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen this, you know the drill. Hop on later or check us out. Yeah, actually, you know what? Just hop on later when you catch up with the show because it
Yeah,
is
go
great.
watch, come back, and join the discussion.
Please do. And again, let us know in the comments what you guys like. But let's get to it.
Bye-bye.
I was just thinking of like Michael Bolton's little intro for Lonely Island's Jack Sparrow song. Just let's get to it, too.
Oh my God. He's a major cinephile.
I would be Michael Bolton in that song. Just like I threw you this big sexy hook. After you watch the Pirates movies. Like I just watched the Three Amigos. That's the hook for my next song. Oh man. But anyway, so let's start into it. This is why I really love this episode. Just straight out of the gate, how we see Monica just wake up from essentially the decimation or the blip, as Spider-Man's called it. So the decimation is a super dark terminology, the most accurate one, but then the blip is like, just for everybody else, I would say. Anyone that's
Yeah.
not really an Avenger or anything like that. So, and that was crazy to see her wake up. And I say she was in a bit of a state of denial when she saw her hands kind of come back from dusting, essentially. But maybe it's also she thought, oh, I just woke up from a weird dream, whatever. And that whole hospital scene was frantic. I feel like showed, like, I know how we saw the blip kind of get reversed, like a Hulk's flick when Spider-Man Homecoming, where people just kind of appeared out of nowhere and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And it was comedic. It was more for a comedic purpose. Like, oh yeah, people just came back out of nowhere, so we're all readjusting. But it's like this one was the darker version of it, like the end game version, where people are waking up. They're like, I need a phone. Like when she runs into the nurse, she's like, do you have a phone? No. It's like, I need to call my wife. Like I need to figure this out. Like everybody's freaking out. The hospital's like on high alert. And she goes to the doctor asking about her mom. Where's my mom, Maria Rambo? And nobody knows it. That was a pretty intense part. Like I would have been in the same boat. Like I felt her like anxiety and her panic. You know what I mean? I think that was great to start it
Yeah,
off with.
it was a great showcase for the duality of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. How, up to this point, it's done a really good job. Not in some ways more than others, of really showing things with a comedy light and things with more dramatic light. And like this is the perfect example of it because in Spider-Man Home, Far From Home, where we see
Oh
you
yeah,
know
Far From Home. I'm sorry.
yeah, when we see people coming back from from being decimated or blipped, again, it is through the lens of a kid, Spider-Man and like, his high school friends. And it's done with a more comedic, like the marching band appearing with him, while there's a basketball game going on in the gym and stuff. It's played for comedy, but then it shows you through another lens of Monica waking up and not knowing where her mother was, with them in the hospital and people just appearing and them not knowing what's happening. I can imagine what happened with the rest of the world because it was 50% of the population, which is a lot of people just coming back all of a sudden 5 years later. And we saw what happened in Endgame. We knew that people were coming back, but it just really showed what happened with people who were just outside of that. We didn't really consider within these like superhero movies the civilian aspect of a lot of these events that are happening. So it was a
Yeah.
really cool, awesome way of opening up this episode and again showing what the effect of bringing all those people back in Avengers Endgame, like what happened.
Yeah, and then again, as she's like running into people, like you could tell some are freaking out. Like I said, that nurse that's just needs to call his wife. You still saw people slowly kind of coming back, like materializing out of nowhere, which is pretty trippy. Like this is a definitely like a messed up sci-fi like movie. Like this doesn't even it didn't even need to be a Marvel thing. If this was in something else, I would have thought, oh shit, this is intense. Like what the fuck is going on kind of thing. And the hardest part was when she finally gets a hold of the doctor that was there 5 years before, and she's like, what, she's like, where's my mom? You just said this surgery was successful. It's like, the
Hmm.
cancer came back. It's like, you just took her out of surgery. What are you talking about? Like,
Hmm.
she died 3 years ago. She's like, like, again, just the actress, I forgot her name right now off the top of my head, but the actress herself, she did a great job of just, just playing that like just bewildered but frustrated look. Like, what are you talking about? My mom was here. It's like you've been gone for 5 years,
Hmm.
and then it just again jumps straight into the whole title section. That was just insane. Like it was hard to believe that, not hard to believe, but it was just hard to swallow. I guess that she's just coming back from 5 years. A lot of things have changed. And then I love how we find out that she's an agent of Sword. She really is an agent of Sword,
Hmm.
which is sentient weapon observation response division. I forgot the specific words of it,
Yeah, I think it
but
was Sentient Weapons Operation and Response Division.
yeah. So we saw that, and that she missed the a promotion essentially, but because her mom, I guess, was the head of Sword, so kind of how like Nick Fury started Shield, another African American started basically a global response division, which is pretty badass. Like we have Nick Fury as head of Shield, and it's almost like they're the flip side. Like Nick Fury is very aggressive, but he was supposed to be like a defensive thing, and she was more on the defensive side, but she started something that's supposed to be responsive, like more on the aggressive. I feel like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like taking action before, things happen, taking the initiative. Like again, like a sword. You're on the attack, not on the defense.
Exactly. But um, yeah, no, that was. I just thought that was kind of funny. We find out, yeah, like her friend from 5 years ago got the promotion, and he told her like your mom when you disappeared, she set up this rule that you're not really supposed to be active duty, especially because of everything. Like anyone that blipped part of Sword, you're put off active duty essentially. But so he settles her with a missing persons case. Like, okay, this is something to get you back into the swing of things, but not something too crazy. You're just gonna do a little detective work with this FBI agent, which was awesome that we got to see Randall Park come back from Ant-Man and the Wasp. He was
Hmm.
easily one of the best parts of that movie, besides Michael Pena's Lewis, who's great.
Yeah, he's always the stealing show person. Michael Pena is just fantastic when he gets to get cut loose and play more comedic roles. But yeah,
Uh,
going back to what you said about the about him assigning her to the FBI missing persons thing, I really like that like small detail that they added that he's told her you're grounded, only terrestrial missions. I felt like it was a
yeah,
really nice like tip of the cap to the comic version of Sword, which is, the sentient world observation response thing. So, they were out doing space missions and stuff, and she was asking him about like the astronaut program and everything. So it does show that, maybe Sword, that's what it was, before the blip and all that, the decimation happened. And now they just kind of have to restructure, with Maria dying and, this guy being active director into being something a little bit more, contained and terrestrial at the moment, at least. I thought that was a cool little like Easter egg for fans of the comics.
yeah, I thought that was really cool. Like, okay, so they still are in space, just because again, like Captain Marvel, that end credits scene where we see Nick Fury in space, like on some sort of station. So I think he's in the space side of things, but she's grounded to Earth. Like you're strictly doing Earth jobs. You're not going to space. Um, and then again, we go down to Westview because there's a legit sign on the freeway. It's like, okay, this is a real place, right? And then we see Agent Jimmy Woo of the FBI there, and he actually does a little card trick.
Yeah,
Everyone's talking about that. Just he finally nailed down his magic tricks because he was always jealous of Scott and how he could do that. And
yeah,
then he was watching videos in his office, like, damn it! Like,
yeah. Try to practice the close-up magic.
I mean, if he didn't get him done in like 5 years, that would be a little sad, in
Yeah,
all
just have
honesty. But no,
to.
but he got it, and this is what again like it keeps it, even though we're back to MCU format, so it's like it's present, like it's gonna be more straightforward than the past couple episodes have been, like telling us what's going on. But even then, the officers are like, there's no such place. We're from Eastview. It's like, okay, whatever.
Right
Yeah,
there.
it's like you guys are
Right.
sitting right in front of it. There's the town right there behind you guys. So I don't know what you're talking about. Like they're kind of like, what is going on? And Jimmy's like, exactly. This isn't just a missing persons case. This is a missing towns case, which I thought was like, damn, this is crazy.
Hmm.
Like, it isn't just like essentially, I forgot who they originally were looking for. It's a whole Westview is just in limbo. Like, it's pretty crazy because again, we're seeing more extent on the outside perspective what Wanda can do. She is
Yeah.
manipulating reality. And real quick before we go on, this is basically the House of M moment. We'll talk about that at the end, Bernie.
Oh,
I just
okay.
want to get that out. I'll talk about more after.
Cool,
But
cool. Because I haven't actually like read that comic, so I'm very curious to see like how the similarities are and what inspiration comes from in the show. So yes, do tell later on.
yeah, I mean, I lost my book. I don't know what happened to it. I think I loaned it to somebody, or I maybe it got misplaced when I moved or something. I don't know. But I need that one. I need to read, and a couple other books that go along with it. But let's keep going. So I love how she ends up disappearing with it. That was the crazy thing too. Like it wasn't on purpose. It literally was just investigating it. She gets sucked into the dome and it's like, shit, we need everybody on board now. Where do we get? And then we also get to see another return of a personal favorite of mine, Kat Dennings' character Darcy, just from Thor and Thor: The Dark World.
Hmm.
Like it's cool. Like she's kind of like back into the mix because she was also the comic relief for Thor in those movies. Like if
Yeah,
anybody remembers, because I know she was a bit of a smaller part, and everybody talks about just Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth, but she was another big factor because she was the intern, and now we know she's basically another expert in like astrophysics and all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
So
She's a doctor now, right? Like her title is she's got her doctorate degree and all that stuff.
yeah, again, which is again pretty cool. Like we see Jimmy with his magic tricks, and we see her as an actual expert. Like this is pretty
Hmm.
sick. And everybody's just kind of walking. Like I love her just honesty. Was just, huh, we're not going to talk. Like fine. And the guy says, "I'm chemical engineer. Nobody cares."
Yeah. Once you get to everybody in the back of that van to like say what the profession they're all in, the guy was like, "Nah, we're not supposed to talk to each other." And then after everyone goes through and they're like, "Yeah, I did this, I do this, I do this," and it's like, okay, they're just bringing in experts from all lines of things to figure this out, whatever's going on. And then
Yeah,
finally, then finally, he's like, "Yeah, I'm a chemical engineer." He's like, "Nah, dude, no one cares anymore."
yeah. Like you lost your chance. I'm not friends with you now.
Hmm.
And how she's just trying to set up, like, can I get some coffee? Like, can anyone help with that? Like, all she wants is just coffee just to get herself working. But
Hmm.
then when she starts looking at her stuff, that there's a much bigger thing than just some invisible dome. That there's real energy levels coming from it. They keep trying to send drones in there, but
Yeah,
nothing's answering
nothing
back.
back.
Even the guy's like, it's classified, and she's like, so yeah, nothing's working,
You
right?
know
Like,
nothing. Yeah.
yeah, like just don't lie to me. Just tell me the truth, which I appreciate her candor. And
It's just like, if you think about it, like she's one of the few like experts that have had contact with, these spectacular beings.
yeah. So, and then this is where I really enjoy this episode is that she's examining the data and she's like, I need an old TV, like just an old thing, not a flat one. And that's when you get she has like a small crappy TV, and that's where you're watching it like a show. So how we've been viewing WandaVision, that's how the outside world is viewing it. I
Hmm.
thought that was a total like almost like a theatrical like a commentary within commentary kind of thing. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
it was a great like meta moment. How yeah,
Mhm.
like you said, like she's watching the show that we're watching, and then her and Jimmy are like commenting on like things that happen in the episodes, and just like a lot of like the discussions we have. It's just so great.
Exactly. And yeah, like nobody knows what's going on, but I love how they're piecing it together. Like, okay, this person's this, they're playing this role. Like, they're not, like, their characters are not the same people as they would be in the real world. But
Hmm.
Wanda and Vision, they're all harping on it. Like, he's supposed to be dead and she's been missing. Like, what the hell? Like, I guess we found her and we know what she's doing essentially.
Hmm.
Um, and I know that's been a debate. No, now everybody's debating, is Vision really alive? Like, did she recreate him? I still think he's dead. I think he is just a figment of her imagination in this world she's created. But if she did bring him back to life, again, it's just God status of powers. Like she can bring people back, like reimagine reality to bring people back from the dead. That would be epic if that's what happens. And again, that plays in the House of M thing. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Actually, I mean, we have talked about, but I'll say what this could lead to. And I love how they're just watching it, kind of piecing it together, seeing what's going on. How everything goes in the dome basically gets like turns into that era of the show. Like
Yeah.
when they send that guy in who becomes the beekeeper, he's in like a nuke suit. The rope that is attached to him, it becomes an old like plastic jump rope. I thought that was pretty clever. I was like, oh, like I know what that is. Like that's cool.
Yeah, it's
But they're
just
just
anything that goes into this like dome essentially just gets changed, like the reality of it gets warped, which is like again, like you said, a crazy display of Wanda's powers.
Yeah, like it doesn't just change back. It stays that way, which is pretty cool. And then how they're like, so they're watching the show, like Jimmy and Darcy. She's like, "Oh, like they have twins." And he's like,
Hmm.
"You serious?" She's like, "I'm into it. Like I'm invested. Leave me
Yeah, like
alone."
I'm invested. Like the rest.
Basically, every fan of this show, like you and me, I was like, I get what you mean. I feel the same way, Darcy. Um, and then we find out that Monica's Geraldine, like that was definitely the it, but she doesn't know it, or it's like, is she playing along? There's still no real, there wasn't a true answer to that. They're just kind of speculating what's going on. But then when they fast forward to the part of Ultron, actually, real quick before we do that, I love how when they're watching the TV, how that in the first episode we saw somebody like taking notes. That was her taking notes at the computer screen. So I thought that was kind of
Yeah,
cool.
they do that throughout this whole episode, where the things that we've seen from the outside world that have gone into or like around the Westview dome essentially. Like how it gives answers to that, like the little toy helicopter, was the drone that Monica sent in, and then like you said, the guy in the hazmat suit turning into the beekeeper, and then when when Jimmy Woo's trying to contact her through the radio on the table by the park. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
so it's
couldn't
like.
I couldn't hear the voice until he said, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Now we know who's saying it. Like,
Mhm.
duh.
Yeah, so I like how this episode, like I said, at the beginning, it's giving us a lot of answers. Like, okay, this is why this happened, and this is why that happened that way. So it's like, okay, again, it's telling us what's really going on here, which I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and actually, it's kind of funny how I joked about like Game of Who. This is kind of the Game of Thrones moment where we catch up to the birth of, Tommy and Billy, and that's when she talks about Ultron. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. She just referenced something a few years ago, like something real. And every time that Wanda's like changed part of the show, like when she says no to the beekeeper, or she didn't like what Geraldine was saying, aka Monica, that there's just a cut in the show. And
Hmm.
Darcy's like, what the hell is this? This makes no sense. But now I think she had the realization like, oh shit, like I think Wanda did that on purpose, like just
Hmm.
to ignoring the reality, essentially, just in denial. And again, Wanda did kind of fuck up Geraldine. We were not wrong about that last one, how I got freaked out, where she's just like, you need to leave. You're gonna stay away from my family, and just sends her through the house out of the dome. Like, if this was reality, she would have killed her. That would have been it. Like Geraldine, like Monica should be dead, in all honesty. And I like how she kind of realizes that too, but she puts the house back together like nothing happened. And when Vision comes in, it's his, you know, monochromatic corpse just
Dead
looking at her.
body.
Yeah, like, so I'm thinking maybe that is Vision's dead body she's using as like a
As a
physical,
prop, essentially.
yeah, as a prop, like a working puppet essentially for
Yeah.
Vision to be himself.
It's just like so twisted. Because again, like you and I have been talking, like, is he dead? Is he alive? But he could just be, the dead body being just animated by her to be alive, which is messed up.
It is messed up because she looked at, and that was a kind of a scary part too. Just like, oh shit, like okay, this is a horror story at this second. And again, Vision is just catching on. There's part of Vision in there, his programming that's in that body that's just saying like, this isn't right. None of this feels right. But she's just like, oh, what should we watch tonight? Like, let's just keep going about things. Like, okay, and we still don't know who Agnes is. We don't know much about everybody else in there. Actually, that was the one person they did not talk about, Agnes, this whole show.
Yeah,
That's an interesting thing.
they talked about Herb, right? Yeah, they talked about Herb. They talked about Dottie. They talked about the husband and wife couple from
Yeah,
the first episode.
the business, the boss and his wife.
The boss and his wife. Yeah, so yeah, you're right. They didn't say anything about Agnes.
No, that's again another question that I need answered. But we'll probably find out in the next few episodes because there's only
Oh,
like five. There's only five left now. Um, but that was just crazy shit. We're really seeing Wanda for what she's been. She's been like this the whole MCU. Even though she became an Avenger, she does care about people. There's no doubt in that. But
mm,
when she wants to, which we've seen her do, she can really mess people up because they're in her way. Like Vision got basically sent through the floor of the Avengers mansion in New York in Civil
mhm.
War. Age of Ultron, she was just like playing around with like basically messing with people's minds, and they basically decimated the rest of Ultron's robots in the end.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're seeing more of the extent. And like we talked about in Endgame, how she was almost going to tear Thanos apart, literally just ripping off his armor piece by piece, like torturing him.
Hmm.
Like this show is really diving into her mindset that like she has had a hard life, and nothing
It's
is
just
going to
not a hard
stop
lie.
her. Okay. Yeah, she's not like us. I was like, whoa, Pigeon Toady. She's had a hard life. Okay.
Like we thought we were gonna go in a completely different direction with it.
I love stories. That's another great, like, that's another underrated movie. But let's finish this up. And again, how Geraldine gets thrown out, that when they all kind of arrive to her, like, yo, like, Monica, what happened? What's going on? And she's just, it's all Wanda. Like, Wanda's behind everything. And that's when I figured House of M, like I've said before, where she's manipulated reality. Oh, it was in the comics, it was the whole world. She changed the reality for every hero in Marvel. But this time it's just specific to Westview. But they did talk about that. If this spreads, this will have major nuclear issues with the world. Like she could upset the balance of the
Of reality
universe.
itself, yeah.
So, and that's why I'm saying it's House of M. But instead, this is what I think will happen. Instead of her killing off the mutant population, and how the theme with her, character arc is that everyone will keep fearing you, and she can't control everybody's fear. But I think instead of killing population, she's gonna make mutants. She's gonna be like, you're gonna be scared of me. You're gonna be scared of the rest of the world too. Like
That's
I'm
awesome.
not gonna be the only one to fear. So that's what I'm thinking this could go, and then we'll see her more in Multiverse of Madness with Doctor Strange and the extent of that. Like I think Doctor Strange is definitely gonna have he's got to have something to do with this, or maybe there'll still be Captain Marvel. I don't know, but it's just it was super exciting to see all this, but also just terrifying because she is just a powerhouse, just uncontrollable rage and emotion.
Yeah,
Like
and just the fact that Monica, said those words, it's Wanda. It's all Wanda. Like, which again, I think is a little bit of a red herring. I don't think it's all Wanda, but I think a majority of it is, enough for it to be like considered her fault. So it's like you said, it's crazy the possibilities of where this could go and just how big this can get, and like you said, what ramifications it might have down the line within the MCU. It's just crazy to think about.
yeah, I mean Agnes, I know there's a lot of speculation on who she could be. I still think she's a supervillain that basically trains Wanda to like help create the children and like her powers and stuff. So
Mhm.
that still remains to be seen, but the fact that they didn't talk about Agnes and that she's like acknowledged of like what's going on, that we can't keep, that you shouldn't say anything. I feel like she's letting Wanda do this. She's just living in it and kind of seeing like, where will this go? What are you gonna do to the rest of the world? Like, or what can I do? Or I don't know. There's again, this is just one of the questions that I want answered, but we'll have to wait obviously until the next few episodes.
We'll
So
have to see.
it's getting great though. But just it was such a great episode. It was great to see the outside perspective and just commenting that yeah, she created a sitcom show. Like why of all things? And like it was just funny. Like it's like that fourth wall in Deadpool. Like fourth wall break inside of a fourth wall break. That's
It's
like
like
16
16,
walls.
16 walls.
Oh man, but that'll do it for me on this one. Any other thoughts or maybe speculations you got on this burn?
No, I'm just curious to find out, what's gonna happen with the rest of the show, like what now that Sword is aware of what's going on, what's their plan, to try to contain this. Because like you said, like Darcy mentions it that, it's contained now, but this could get out of hand real fast if, it doesn't get stopped. So I'm just waiting to see what's gonna happen, man. I'm curious, where the show's gonna go, and again, like what the lasting effects are gonna be for the MCU as a whole.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's going to spill into the other shows too, like Loki or. I mean, I kind of doubt it, but it would be cool if they do that. But if anything, it'll probably spill more into the movies for sure. Like
Yeah,
we
I think we know that for sure because I think Feige said that this is part of like the multiverse arc, of
Mhm,
this Doctor Strange and the next Spider-Man movie. With all
mhm.
playing around with the multiverse type thing. So we're definitely going to see something in those movies. I'm just curious how this is going to lead into that.
Absolutely, but Yeah. All right, man. Well, that'll do it for us here at the Bodacious Rant with the WandaVision episode 4, which again, Bern and I give it a solid 5 out of 5 ranting. So please check it out, catch up, or just let us know what you thought of it. We love to hear everybody else's opinions on this, good or bad, whether we disagree or agree with it, doesn't matter. Just let us know. We're open to the discussion for the most part. But actually, I was talking with somebody I know from work was talking about. It's like I never care for the sitcom. Like, you know what? It doesn't care for you. I was just being
Just
petty
get
about it.
really
But
defensive about it.
I was like, you need to wash your mouth out, sir. just being, I was just being dumb, and I'm like, it's all right. I get it. It's not for everybody, but I personally have been loving it. So
Oh, me too.
definitely another win. But yeah, well, we'll definitely talk about episode 5 coming up later. So everybody keep an eye on that, and hopefully we'll all be in the same discussion together. If you know what I mean.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, Baron. I'll talk to you later, my dude.
Talk to you later, my man. Like, subscribe, comments, let us know, because we're going to catch you on the next one.